Hey, how's it going? Welcome to Pushrod TV. Thought this being the very first episode, we might get into a few cheap DIY car mods to get your vehicle going a little bit quicker. Let's get into it. So one of the first things that I would probably do, and I dare say most of you out there probably would too, is weight reduction. So pretty much first thing I'd be doing is just giving the car a good clean out, all the junk in the boot or the trunk. Just a good general tidy up, vacuum, that sort of thing. You'd be surprised how much weight you're carrying around just in junk that should really be stored elsewhere. In saying that too, you can get a little bit more creative. Now this car, being an R34 Skyline, is my daily driver, so I need to keep it pretty reasonable to drive. It's not a race car. So stuff that I'd be doing is all the sound deadening and insulation. I'll probably end up pulling all that out. Any miscellaneous panels, little plastic trim and all that sort of stuff you don't really see and it doesn't really affect anything. Also too, if you've got brackets that are holding brackets to hold something else, as long as it's not going to affect the integrity of whatever those brackets are holding, maybe you can delete one of those brackets and rig it so whatever is being held by the second bracket is held by the first bracket. Also too, with regards to that, you'd be surprised how much weight are in just the hardware, i.e. nuts and bolts and washers and all that sort of thing. Now I'm not saying only put one bolt or two wheel nuts on, or all that sort of thing, but you've got bolts that have got a fair bit of overhang out one end. Trim the bolts down, but just make sure it doesn't affect the integrity of what it's holding, if it's got weight behind it or whatever. So alright, let's get on to the next thing. Exhaust systems. Probably one of the best performance mods you could probably get is a good, nice, free-flowing muffler. They're not overly expensive, although there are quite a few expensive ones. It's up to you to do your research and see what's what and what will fit your particular application. Also too, this being a non-turbo model, the turbo exhaust is actually bigger than what the naturally aspirated exhaust. So for me, it'd be a no-brainer for a catback system is to go down to the local import wreckers or junkyard or whatever you want to call it, and purchase a catback part of a OEM turbo exhaust system. I have priced up one of these before, and it's about $250, so it's a relatively cheap compared to if you go buy it off of whoever's exhaust supplies or whatever it may be, or the It and a Bit brand. So also too, you don't have to worry about fitment and buying extra hardware and all that sort of thing, because it's a direct replacement bolt-up fit. Okay, exhaust manifolds. Although you can't see it because of the heat shield here, you might be able to see the flange down there a little bit. There is power to be had with the exhaust manifold by porting it. Now if you've got headers or extractors, whatever you want to call them, whether it be factory or aftermarket, you can still even up and match port the flanges and all that sort of thing. If you really want to go the nth degree, you could also get them extrude honed. Same with the exhaust manifold. Another bit more cheaper, easier way of doing things is battery acid or muriatic acid. Filling them up, letting them sit for a while, and do this a few times, and they'll take some material out as well. Probably best to really do that trick with the cast iron manifolds, not so much with the headers, because you might find you'll end up having some real thin spots. And then it's just a matter of baking soda and water and give them a good flush out, and you're ready to party. Now on the heat side of things, thermal wise, keep all your heat shields intact and where they are. It helps with under bonnet temperature, but also this stuff too, like color Duplicolor and also VHT. That's an Aussie brand, VHT. They're both exhaust header paint or exhaust paint with ceramic. I have had experience with these before, and they actually do work. Now the heat shield that you would have seen a little bit earlier, that was coated in Duplicolor high heat with ceramic. And what I found is before I painted it, I could touch it and like, yep, bang, finger straight off, that was hot. Painted it both back and front, fitted the heat shield back on, got the car up to operating temperature again, and did it again, and then I could put my finger on it for at least a good second, maybe a second and a half. So it does work, and I did notice a slight change in under bonnet temperature as well when I first opened up the bonnet. So they're always a good thing to have, and you can do it to your whole exhaust system or just your headers or your cast manifold. You can do it to all your heat shields, front and back as well. It all helps. Also this stuff too, header wrap. I've had mixed results with it, I guess you could say. Not from the fact that it doesn't do its job, it does it actually very well. It's the fact if you use it, I've used it in the past on forklifts and that sort of thing, and of course they don't have much airflow and that sort of thing, as much as what a normal road going vehicle would do. But I noticed after a while the cast iron exhaust manifolds got super hot, and the cast iron end up, for the lack of a better word, sort of crystallizing, and it end up cracking in quite a few areas. And also if it gets wet too, it tends to hold the moisture a little bit until it dissipates, till the exhaust temperature gets it up to temperature again. Catch cans. I mean, there's a fair bit of debate on YouTube and the internet whether they work or they don't work, and blah 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 blah. It's up to you to decide if they do or not. In my experience, yes, they do. Essentially, it's letting all the nasties out of the crankcase, water vapor, fuel vapor, oil vapor, all that sort of crap that goes out of your crankcase ventilation and straight back into the inlet to be burnt again. When the engine does that, it dilutes the fresh incoming air fuel charge, and you're not going to get as good a bang. And not only that too, oil doesn't really have the octane level that fuel does, so it will detonate and all the other rubbish, and you're going to have poorer performance. And if you've got a computerized car, it might take a bit of timing out of it. It also could run the engine could run a little bit hotter, all that sort of thing. So look, you decide, but they're a worthwhile thing to have. So the first place I'd probably look at modifying the intake system from throttle body through to inlet would be find a high pressure area on the car where it's preferably somewhere along the front here, the bumper, some openings, and have your like a bell mouth sort of a pipe, inlet pipe going up to your airbox. This actually has a factory fitted over the radiator style cold air intake. It works, yeah, it's not too bad, but it could be better. But for packaging reasons, this is what the manufacturers come up. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Like, I know there's a heap of fancy different airbox kits and all that sort of stuff. Look, at some point, the airbox is going to become restrictive in the amount of air it will flow. But for a standard to a slightly modified, very mild car, say an exhaust system, a filter, and a bit of a tune, it'd probably be more than enough. I mean, you can modify these boxes a little bit more, so that's where I'd probably start there. As far as inlet piping and all that sort of stuff, now this box here is a resonator, so all that's doing is heating up the air because it's very close to the exhaust manifold. So I'd be getting rid of that and having just a nice free-flowing pipe straight into the throttle body. Again, with catch cans, you've got all your EGR pipes and all that sort of thing, like this is off the power steering. Got crankcase ventilation there. There's another one at the back of the manifold that might be a bit hard to see. If you can, try and route all those into a catch can. The only other thing I can say about catch cans is buy an appropriate size one. So if you've got, say, 1,000 horsepower turbo V8, you'd probably be wanting something that's maybe 3 litres capacity or something like that. Whereas if something like this little 2.5 litre 6, they probably only need a little one like the one was just shown before. Air filters are probably going to be one of the most easiest upgrades. There is going to be a point where you're going to get over a set horsepower level to where like I said, the air box would probably become a restriction as well as an air filter. It's up to you to do your testing, all that sort of thing. Now, I know there's plenty of high performance filters and all that sort of stuff on the market. Again, it's up to you to do your research. Saying that, it might be a bit hard to pick up, but you may be able to see a little pipe there and possibly one coming out the back side somewhere. That's coolant. That's a coolant heated throttle body. To disconnect or bypass the throttle body altogether and reconnect those hoses, the only downside is you're going to have to bleed the cooling system again. If you want to go one step further, a washer bottle or some form of container or something like that with a washer motor or a little motor pumping ice water or coolant, cold water, something like that through the throttle body. So that's just another, I guess you could sort of say it's like a little bit of a water to air intercooler for a naturally aspirated motor. You can do as well porting your inlet manifold, and by means of port matching, I mean this has got your throttle body, an intermittent section, then you've got the top half of the plenum, and then the runners and bottom half of the manifold. There's nothing stopping you from, apart from time and some gaskets and stuff like that, which you'll obviously need. Pull it all apart, mark it all, port match each segment so it's all nicely free flowing. You can also do the same trick as per the exhaust manifold. You can use the extrude honing method, or if you're feeling lucky, you can use the muriatic acid or the battery acid to do the same thing. It's entirely up to you. Now, if some of the manifolds on your vehicles are variable inlet runner, i.e. they've got little butterflies in them, just take a little bit extra care. Okay, so there is horsepower when you're servicing your car. Double check with your workshop manual or a trusted mechanic. You could even go to the dealership, whatever it may be. Thinner oils, specifically full synthetic oils, not only for your engine but for your automatic transmission, your manual gearbox, transfer cases, diffs, all that sort of thing. The thinner oil, the gears cut through it, I guess you could say, or work through the oil a little bit easier, freeing up a little bit of horsepower. I mean, it's not much, but it's a little bit of something's better than nothing. Next would be spark plugs, specifically heat ranges and gaps. Now, depending on your vehicle, you might be able to go 1 or 2 heat ranges cooler, or you might maybe go hotter. You can adjust your ignition time, you get a little bit more ignition timing out of it, that sort of thing. Spark plug gaps, open them up to the widest the manufacturer specifies, the vehicle manufacturer, and work your way up until your car starts to stumble or has a bit of a hesitation, either under load or it just won't quite idle. The way I go about that is do the easiest plug first that you can get to, and then once you figure the sweet spot with that, do all the other plugs to it, and just keep a next time when you're ready to do a tune-up, keep a record of the plug gap and what plugs you used, heat ranges and all that, and bang, done. Fuel system cleaners, injector cleaners. Look, that's something you guys are going to have to work out. Do your research. Look, some can be snake oil, some can be really good, some can be in between. Now, I'm not endorsing any of these products here. It's just what I've used in the past. So it's up to you. A lot of them are alcohol based and they have a very high percentage of alcohol. That's what it essentially does the cleaning. In saying that, you might be able to get away with doing a couple of tanks full of, say, E10 or E85 as well might help, because they're alcohol based and they're pretty much doing nearly the same thing. I have done that in the past with this car, and it has worked. Just don't do it too often because the alcohol affects hoses and injectors and stuff that's not set up for alcohol. That's it. What are you waiting for? Go get your hands dirty. I'll see you next video.